Good morning, Year 6, and welcome to Monday's maths lesson. You're going to be starting in your new Maths No Problem workbook and textbook B, but before that, we're going to be looking at some sticky knowledge. So for Click today, we have a question from last week's test, which is 2 decimal numbers added together. The issue with this is one decimal number has more decimal places than the other decimal number. So you have to be really careful when laying out the question. So you need to lay out the question in the column method with decimal points underneath each other and then the numbers in the correct place. So we've got units, tenths, hundredths, thousandths, units, tenths, hundredths, okay? And then you need to add these together. So the first column here, to make my numbers slightly larger, is 9 add 0. Okay? My next column is 8 add 4. So 8 add 4 would be 12. Carry the 1 into my tenths column. And then 6 add 1 is 7. Add 5 would be 12. So again, my 2 goes into my tenths column, and then we have got 8 add 6, which is 14, and making sure my decimal point is in the correct place. So now you need to have a go at these three questions on your whiteboard. Safe sticky knowledge. So a lot of us were asking about using a protractor for this question. It is not needed. It is about your understanding of angles of a triangle. The angles of any triangle add up to 180 degrees. So what you would need to have done is 80 add 40 because they're your two angles. So we've got 80 add 40. Calculated that, which is 120, and then taken the total of those two angles away from 180, which is 60 degrees. So using that knowledge, I would like you to have a go at that question. So I'll zoom in for you. Have a go at that for me. Find the angle A. For your next part of your safe sticky knowledge, we've got simplifying fractions. So you need to find the largest possible number both of these numbers can be divided by. So what times table are they both in? So I know they're both in the 2s because they're even. I also know they're both in the 3s. I also know they are both in the 6s. And I don't think I can go higher than that. So 18 divided by 6 would be 3, and 42 divided by 6 would be 7. So your answer would be 3/7 as the simplest form. The next section that I want you to do are these two questions. So simplify 16 over 32 and 15 over 45, again on your whiteboards. So we're going to be looking at percentages today. So it says here, the rules for a sports competition state that no more than 40% of each team can be Year 6 pupils. So we've got Team Alpha, Team Beta and Team Gamma. There's 50 in the first team, 65 people in the second and 42 in the third. I'm going to show you how to find 40% of these numbers. So to find 40%, you need to know about percentages. So we know that 100% is a whole, okay? So I also know that 100 can be split equally into tens, as the bar model shows here. So if I want to find 40%, so 4 tens, you have to do 50 divided by 10 to find 10%, which would be 5, and then multiply that by 5, which would be 20. To find 40% of 65 is the same process. 65 divided by 10 is a decimal number, 6.5, and then it's 6.5 multiplied by 4. If this isn't something you can do in your head, you can use short multiplication, which would be 6.5 times 4, which is 26. And then the bottom one, it's the same steps. So if we're finding a percentage that is a multiple of 10, you divide by 10 and then times by the amount of multiples of 10 in that percentage. So if it's 40%, you would divide by 10 times by 4. If you're finding 70%, you would divide by 10 and times by 7, and so on. So for your guided practice, it says the table shows the results of a survey among year 6 pupils. There are 80 pupils surveyed, and it tells you what percentage of each ice cream was chosen. So the first question, you've got to find 10% of 80. Okay, so you do 80 divided by 10 and write down the answer. For B, you've got to do 40% of 80. So you've already done 80 divided by 10, which is here. So the answer in this first blue box, you would multiply by 4. For 15%, we know 10% of the number now, which you would have already written down. To find 5%, you would half this number, and then those two numbers you would add together. And then for 35%, I would do 3 lots of 10% and then add 5%. Okay, you may need to re-watch this part of the video before you fully understand it. Once you've completed the guided practice, you need to go on to worksheet 1, which is pages 1 and 2, and you can log into Teams throughout the lesson and I will be able to support you. If you get the worksheet done, you then go on to your reasoning. Enjoy.